Hello, Legionnaires. Today we are cracking open the Complete Fighter's Handbook for AD&D 2nd Edition, a book that dares to take the most straightforward class and layer it in a sandwich of upgrades, ideas, and unnecessary crap. So let's take a look.
Damn, tell me how you really feel.
all these handbooks are the same to me in terms of there's a lot of good stuff in here. And there's a lot of stupid stuff in here that you shouldn't use. Like you ever have those brainstorming sessions where they say there's no such thing as a dumb idea? Well, that is true. During a brainstorming session, there's no such thing as a bad idea. Because
all of the ideas that survive should be good.
Right. Outside of a brainstorming session, there absolutely are bad ideas. And there are plenty, again, I want to be clear, there are plenty of good and plenty of bad in all of these handbooks. And no, by the way, just for anybody, I will not be covering all the handbooks. Probably won't get to the Wizard's Handbook, Priest Handbook, so forth. We'll see, because in the next upcoming weeks, I'm going to be going back to doing some Palladium stuff and so forth. But maybe we'll get a few more in here. Today, we're going to cover the Fighter, later on the Paladin, and then finally the Ranger. So you're going to get to see all the Warrior ones. But let's get started here, and let's hit up on page 4. Is it 4? It is not page 4. All right. So how many pages off is this? 3. You got to remember that. All my page numbers are page off. So this book starts off by rehashing the character creation concepts that you already know. I'll zoom in for whatever reason. Wow, that is a really, by the way, this is a purchased copy. Can you see? You can't really see the watermark down there, but it is a purchased copy. And this is what you get if you do the Drive-Thru RPG purchase copy. Dives deeper into the character creation concepts to help you create a better fighter. And right off the bat, the book pushes a bunch of ideas that I'm absolutely against. I know some of you use these options. I heard the comments when we talked about character creation during Heathen Dog's segment. Some of you see this game as hero to superhero. I don't. I see this as a game first. So I believe that you're 0 to hero in this. So no, I don't like all the weird options that say you can start with all 16s. That's great. I mean, theoretically, is it that big of a deal? No, but I just think they focus on the wrong stuff when it comes to playing character classes. As we said in Heathen Dog segment, a lot of people care too much about, did I level up? Did I level up? Did I level up? Well, during character creation, sometimes people pay too much. Did I get an 18 double odd? I got to have an 18 double odd or my character sucks. Like, no, it really doesn't. So first it recommends using ability score method 6, and then says fighters should start with the maximum number of hit points. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who already do that. I just don't agree with that. I just don't agree in coddling the characters like that. Play smarter, not to the
I know,
points.
but a lot of people I've seen, and I'm okay with this. At first level, you get maximum hit points. All other levels, you got to roll. I understand that. I
don't think, here's how do I want to say this? I don't think it's the worst idea ever. And if this is what you do at your table, I'm not even eye rolling you, to be honest with you. I just don't like that the book suggests that's how you should do it.
That's fair.
So, all right. Let's go look at a table 6 here. Sorry, page 6. So was it actually page 9? I think it's an experience chart, isn't it? What am I looking for?
I don't know, man.
I don't know what I'm looking for here. It just says page 6 table. I guess it'd be this one because I'm looking at book pages, not okay. That was my bad. Confusing the PDF versus the book. All right, there we go. So that said, the book follows up with 3 non-weapon proficiencies that are actually useful and detailed for a fighter: armor smithing, warrior fletcher, and weaponsmithing. These are solid updates that should benefit the fighters in your game. It's something practical instead of just grabbing blind fighting like everybody does. I think if I remember correctly, armor smithing costs 2 proficiency slots, but it's useful. And you can see here it talks about material cost, how long it takes to actually make the stuff. It takes 12 weeks to make banded mail.
Yeah.
You know, Heathen Dog was talking before about things taking time.
Yeah.
There you go. You want to make banded mail, you're not adventuring for 12 weeks.
And just to remind people, if you are proficient in armor, if you are proficient in a weapon, you also have the ability to maintain it. Keep it from rusting, polish it, sharpen it, stuff like that. But armor does get damaged. armor does get broken. So you may want the skill to repair it yourself rather than pay somebody else to do it. Some NPC in the village to the north or wherever. So these have, value. These skills have value.
Absolutely. And it actually talks about giving them more value at the beginning of this. Like I said, there are a lot of good things in these books. I don't want to act like I'm poo-pooing all these books. There are some stupid things in the books, but you can throw those out and just keep the good stuff. You still have all these handbooks to me are really good.
Because the entire book is optional.
Yes. And I feel like I skipped that part already. We'll get to another section where it says that later for sure. So here's what I'm going to ask you. I already, like I said, to be fair, I do it as well. Every time I see a fighter, I could just close my eyes and use my own blind searing skill, not blind fighting, blind searing, because I'm a seer now, and just guess that your fighter has blind fighting. Doesn't it? But what is your go-to non-weapon proficiency for fighters? And go ahead and throw that in the comments, especially if it's not blind fighting.
Yeah.
All right, let's scroll down page 13 here because I think we start chapter 2 for that one. Oh yeah, there's page 13. Lovely. Warrior kits. All right, chapter 2 jumps into the warrior kits, which mostly affect the fighter class, though some are good for the paladin and ranger as well. With that said, in upcoming videos, I will cover the ranger or paladin and then ranger kits in their own videos.
What are kits?
Kits are ways of specializing your character. Having your character have a focus, be a little more niche than just I'm fighter. Kits are great conceptually. They're not always implemented the best, but they're great conceptually to say, could I have this ability here and maybe get a weakness from that over here to be a more specialized fighter? For example, you want to be a dragon slayer. They're probably going to have abilities that help them fight dragons, but in the meantime, they're going to have some negatives because they focus so heavily on that, right? So it's a way of kind of maybe specializing isn't such a good word, but giving your character a role-playing shtick that also comes to fruition through the numbers of the game as well. That make sense?
Yeah.
I like the idea of kits. I just don't think any of them ever in any handbook ever or any magazine ever, of all the thousands of kits out there, I don't think a single one was ever play tested. So they look good on paper until you put them out there. So I say buyer beware or dungeon master beware when it comes to allowing players to use kits. Most of them are pretty good. Some of them might not be so well. And we're going to take a look at these here. So there are 14. Actually, I want to read this right here. Where is it for each? There it is right there. Zoom in on this. Following are several sorts of warriors represented by warrior kits. Before allowing his players to choose kits for their characters, the DM should review these and make notes for himself about them.
Okay.
Slide over here. We'll finish up with these little 3 points here. For each warrior kit, the DM has to choose if he will even allow the kit in his campaign, what additional information he needs to give the player about the kit, and what changes he might wish to make to each kit. So, do you allow it? Do you have to go, in my campaign world, here's some additional notes? Or do you go, well, I'm going to allow this, but not this, or instead of a +4 modifier, I'm going to give you a +2, whatever. And the player has to be okay with it. Why? Because you're the dungeon master. Well, and all optional, but you're the dungeon master.
Yep.
Okay. So, let's scroll through these kits. I'm not going to stop. We're just going to scroll through. We got the first one here. Hopefully you can see it on the screen. We've got the Amazon. This is the fantasy feminist fighter. If just making a female character isn't loud enough, the Amazon lets tell the whole table you're playing girl power archetype. She gets +3 bonus to her first attack and damage roll because people underestimate her. She also takes a -3 reaction penalty in patriarchal societies. Go patriarchy. This kit wants you to role play that chip on your shoulder.
See, I would not. Red Sonja comes up to me. I am not underestimating that bitch.
She's probably wearing a chainmail bikini. Who fights like that, right?
So, she's either very, very brave or very stupid. Either way, she's very dangerous.
She's scary. Yeah, there you go. Then you have the barbarian. Big, strong, foreign. Reaction modifiers are wild. Bad rolls get worse. Good rolls get better. Remember, reaction modifiers are how people perceive you.
Yes.
Beast Rider. A barbarian who rides a buffalo, a dolphin, a giant lobster. Yes, really. Nobody likes him, so he gets -3 reaction penalty. If you're riding a giant lobster, I already don't like you.
Yeah. We have beef. Or in this case, fish.
Oh, you know, it's seafood, and my God, am I hungry. Next, we have the Berserker, a fan favorite murder ball. Immune to charm spells, can't be knocked out, gets bonuses to attack damage and hit points and saves. When Berserk, he can't retreat, doesn't use range weapons, and suffers a -3 reaction penalty. Also, say goodbye to player agency. So there's a good point to him.
Yep, there is. Oh no, you're Berserk now. You have to keep fighting. But I don't want to. I might die. Well, them's the breaks, bro.
Shouldn't have taken up Berserker, right?
Yeah.
Cavalier, this is the Paladin knockoff. Even the book recommends this kit for Paladins.
Okay.
The Gladiator, one of the few fighter kits I actually like. Get extra specialization with certain weapons like nets, tridents, whips, and spears, but you're a slave to your fame. Paparazzi, promoters, and groupies come with the territory.
Women. You get all the women.
You do. You can get all the women too, but at a cost. That woman, drugs you, and now you got a promoter who's like, if you want to get out of here,
or she's secretly a witch. That happened to Conan a lot, like an inordinate amount of times. That happened to Conan a lot.
The Myrmidon is the professional soldier. You play this one if you want to be an officer and a gentleman.
Okay.
The Noble Warrior, the knight who stands for truth, justice, and doing what your lord tells you to do. Reputation matters, but you get extra money
without the hindrance of a god.
Well, we'll talk about that when we talk about paladins, because I have a lot to say about that specific thing that you said right there. So reputation matters, but you get extra money so you can show everybody how important you are.
Yep. You can kill people while looking great.
That's correct. Peasant hero, the zero to hero story. He's got food and protection in his hometown, but everybody keeps asking him to do favors. Get Timmy out of the well. Kill the giant scorpion. Please make it rain. You're the local solution to every problem.
That is a burden.
That is a burden, yes. The pirate outlaw, either Jack Sparrow or Robin Hood. You don't get any of the special benefits, but you do get the law constantly on your back. And guess what? This affects your entire party.
Of course it does. Just like the
samurai.
Just like the shifter. You bring danger to everybody around you.
There you go. Oh, Tambus strike 18 double out once per day per level. That's cool, but he also has to follow every order his lord gives him, including committing suicide.
Yes, and he has a strict code that he must follow in all of his everyday interactions. You thought being a paladin was constricting? Try samurai.
The samurai here doesn't necessarily have that.
Really?
Yeah, that
they took it. Okay, well, that's fine.
Ninja's Handbook does a better job.
Okay.
But so Ronin, you could be a Ronin samurai.
Sure.
But and this is what every player is going to do. Well, fine, I'll be Ronin.
Yeah, but you're gonna be spit on by like everybody.
Oh, it's worse than that.
Oh, jeez.
Ronin only earn half experience points. And yes, your DM must enforce that or he's doing it wrong and you've got a bad group.
Yeah. So if you're going to go lordless, we'd already be level 20.
There you go. Savage, somehow more primitive than the barbarian or the berserker. He gets some spell-like abilities like alarm and detect magic, plus extra proficiencies, but he's uncomfortable with civilization, suffers armor penalties, and starts with 0 gold.
Well, yeah. I mean, back in his village, they traded in seashells. So,
And pretty stones.
Yeah.
The swashbuckler, basically fighter thief without needing to dual class, gets bonuses. Yeah. Gets AC bonuses in light armor and +2 bonus when interacting with the opposite sex. But fate is against him, and a good game master will always have him at the wrong place at the wrong time. By the way, a couple of good examples in the swashbuckler description as to how that can happen.
Cool.
The wilderness warrior. A rugged survivalist who's great in his home biome, +5 to survival, but clueless in the campaign starting region.
What?
Yeah.
Where
right,
you
so-
live? I mean, why?
Well, that's it. No. That's the thing. Like with the barbarians and so forth, you're foreign. You are expected to start outside of your natural area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So basically, I'm going to do it for the Paladin Ranger, but I decided when I was putting my notes together, I changed my mind. I'm not actually going to dive into any of the kits. If any of them sound cool to you, though, great. There are a couple good ones in there. Don't get me wrong. Just go get the book. It's $9.99 right now on DriveThru RPG. So
You can get your
let's
own
move.
crooked copy for $10.
Yeah. Yeah. This is literally the DriveThru RPG copy that you're looking at right now. This is page 39, right? Yep. Okay. So now we're going to talk about role playing. The fighter is so boring, man. It's so boring to be a fighter. You get nothing. Oh my God. This chapter is for the people who say fighters are boring. It gives solid ideas to help players give their warrior personality, because apparently you don't know how to do that on your own. It's especially useful for new players or those who think the fighter is boring. As I already said, we're going to look at page 42, first column. Oh, we're going to look at one of the, so you get the Doom Champion, the Fated Philosopher. That's the one we're going to look at. So the Fated Philosopher, zoom in on this so you can see it. Where's my mouse? Scroll over. All right. This character is both similar to and very different from the Doom Champion. Like the Champion, he knows that a particular grim fate awaits him. Death. Okay, you're a fighter, kind of in the job description. But he's very philosophical about it and does not torture himself about it. He's likely to be an old campaigner with very few illusions left, but keen appreciation of all life has to offer. Best suited for... So in terms of alignment, lawful and neutral characters are most suited for the Fated Philosopher. Why can't I see my mouse? Because it's white on white. That's why. Chaotic characters are seldom that introspective. The Philosopher is equally suited to good, neutral, and evil characters. In terms of warrior kits, the Philosopher is most admirably suited to the Samurai. He's appropriate to most other kits as well, except the Berserker, which isn't a very introspective sort of hero, and you lose your mind. You don't have any philosophy discussions where you're going nuts. In combat situations, the Fated Philosophers face combat in different fashions. Some are as thoughtful in combat as elsewhere, and take a very analytical approach to combat, striking where the need is greatest, evaluating the enemy's strategy, and so forth. Others, knowing that they cannot forestall their fate, just jump in the thick of things and fight with unrestrained battle fury, and perhaps joy. The player's left to decide how his Fated Philosopher character fights. Basically, he should simply choose the method of combat he prefers for this character and then rationalize it according to the character's philosophy of life. Guess which word in that I don't like?
What?
Rationalize.
Oh. Because
players always think that they're smarter than books and game masters and history and so on and so forth. I don't like that whole rationalization part, but in role-playing situations, the Fated Philosopher is often a sort of fatherly advisor character. He thinks about everything. He's full of sage advice. Though he may be driven by goals as strong as any other characters, in person he's seldom very intense. Now, that is just an example of what one of these philosophies is, or role-playing concepts are. I'm not going to look at them all, but you get the idea, right? Hey, there's the merry show-off if that's what you want to be. So let's go to here. The next thing it's going to talk about is, hey, what happens if you want to play an all-fighter party? So here's a good little section about running all-warrior campaigns. You can't do that. Yes, you can. It touches on playing in high magic, low magic, and no magic settings, and how warriors still have a place. It's only a couple pages, but I do actually think that it is very much worth the read, and I wish more of the book was actually like this. Takes things that you think cannot have. No, if you don't have a fighter, you don't have a mage, you don't have a cleric, your party's doomed to failure. Well, maybe you need to read this. So I think that this section is very well done. And I'm going to ask you, have you ever played in a low or no magic campaign? If you've been in any of my games, you've definitely been in a low magic game.
You know what low magic is. Yeah, you've experienced it.
Did your warrior shine or struggle? Share your story in comments. All right, let's hit
so
up.
We got some chat.
I'm not done yet.
Oh,
but we can do some of the comments now. I'm fine.
Okay. Malachi says, I follow Gary's suggestion that characters should have at least 2 15s.
Good news is Gary isn't right about everything.
There you go.
I'm gonna start adding you to the mix of the Priors of Gygax, which is it this one or is it the Ranger? I actually talk about that a little bit. So I personally I don't care. Gary says Gary was he was just a man. Yes, he created the core of the game, but it's just like Kevin says about his own games for Palladium. Just because he wrote it doesn't mean that it's always right for your table.
There you go. And Kokoshuko says these kits seem like they could add some flavor to a character.
Yes.
Yeah, but again,
it's exactly the intent.
DM beware. Know what you're putting in to the game. And if you do, you're going to have to deal with the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
If that's cool with you, cool with everybody.
I'd say most of them are more flavor than anything else. Sometimes I think players, and I did this as well when I was playing in the 90s when these books were coming out, is I thought that they were more, not powerful, more intense or more beneficial than what they really were. They just add a couple of quirks for the most part. There are some exceptions to that, but they just give you kind of more of a feel or a theme, some recommended proficiencies that add to it as or what you probably should take for the character. There are a couple game breakers out there, but a good dungeon master will notice that.
Yeah. Then we have Raven's Lair. The second edition Samurai is better thought out in Oriental Adventures.
Was there a second edition Oriental?
First edition.
Yeah, that was a first edition book.
Wait, did they come out with a second edition Oriental Adventures?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm not going to say they didn't.
Okay.
And I mean, there's the Ninja's Handbook, and there was some Forgotten Realms Kara-Tur stuff, if I remember correctly, but
okay.
Is that it?
That's it for now.
Okay. And Malachi, that's cool. If people who want to run their games more heroic fantasy, that's fine. I don't do that, and I don't think that is an expectation of Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's an expectation.
Hang on. But in one of the rolling methods, there is the roll 4 dice, drop the lowest one. That will give you statistically much higher. You'll have between an average of 13 and 14 on your roll instead of 10 and 11. So that'll do it for you.
All right. Now let's look at what you probably all came here for. We all know that fighters don't have any personality, right? That's why, I mean, we had to have that long chapter 4 before we got to this. But combat, now that's where fighters shine. This chapter, combat rules, is 35 pages of optional combat rules. Most of
Fighter's Handbook filled with combat options. I get it.
Yep. Most of them are actually really, really great to add to your game after you're comfortable with the core rules in the player's handbook. Don't do this if you're a first-time dungeon master or you haven't played 2E in like 30 years. Because they add nuances that might catch you off guard a little bit. Get used to the core rules at first, +1 for being above, a higher elevation, +2, I think it is for back attack, whatever. Even I might not use some of these because I'd have to relook at the core rules. But you get the idea. But once you do that, you've got a ton of rules. You get rules for readied ranged attacks and how they affect initiative, detailed fighting styles like two-handed weapons, dual wielding, and sword and board. There are maneuvers, called shots, disarming, grabbing, bypassing armor, pulling, and tripping. There are rules for polearm advantages. Did you know that in reality, more people used polearms than swords? There's a reason for that. And we're not talking cool pole arms that are all metal and really heavy. We're talking basically a wooden stick with some sharp stuff at the other end. like that was your typical peasant soldier was using a pole arm, not a sword.
2 reasons. 1, it's really easy to learn how to use. Poke. And 2, the best way to survive combat is to kill your opponent before he can hit you first. Pole arms serve both those functions.
And guess what you can do when horses are coming at you?
You stick it in the ground and you impale the horse. And then the rider falls off and everyone else impales him.
So what else is in here? Oh yeah, punching and wrestling, martial arts styles, even hit locations if you want more detail. You want mounted combat? You want tournaments? Group tactics? This book has got you covered.
Sweet.
But let's get unfortunate and real here. What you really care about is the worst part of the book. Fan favorite atrocities that are the weapon groups, tight groups, and broad groups. A tight group costs 2 weapon proficiency slots and lets you use a specific group of weapons, such as longsword, bastard sword, katana, and two-handed sword without penalties. A broad group costs 3 weapon proficiencies and gives you access to a wider selection of weapons, like the 14 types of blades ranging from daggers to two-handed swords under the same group. You don't fight with a dagger like you do a two-handed sword. One is a heavy slashing weapon, while the other is a light piercing weapon. There's no way those styles are even remotely the same. Anyway, here is my overall problem with the groups. And like I was talking with Heathen Dog earlier, you can make an argument for the tight groups that I may be able to concede. You cannot make an argument for any of the broad groups at all. Fighters only suffer a -2 penalty for using a weapon they're not proficient in. So you've got your 4 starting weapon proficiencies. And let's say you've got longsword. Let's even pretend no specialization right now. You've got longsword, short sword, spear, and battle axe. Just because, right?
Sure.
But now you pick up a scimitar or you pick up a dagger. What is that penalty? It's -2. Not that big of a deal. That's 10%. That's a 10% drop in the character's chance to hit. Compare that to a wizard's -5, which is a 25% drop. It tells me the fighter already has a good grasp of melee weapon combat when the only difference between a dagger, a flail, and a Bec de Corbin is 10%. A dagger, poke, poke. A flail, whoosh, whoosh. A Bec de Corbin, two-handed, get out there. On the other hand, I would think that the penalty for using a knife instead of a dagger would be much less for the wizard, say, -2 instead of -5, because they are pretty similar. Well, the penalty for using a footman's flail would incur the full -5 penalty for the wizard, because, he's not proficient with it, right? It's like the groups make more sense for non-fighters than they do for fighters. In other words, the weapon group system solves a problem that really didn't exist. It's not game breaking, but I don't use it. And while I don't do this, in my experience, and I want to stress I don't do this, but I've seen this a lot. Most DMs already hand wave the -2 penalty if the weapons are similar. Most DMs I know, dagger, knife, whatever, same thing, go. Flail, nunchaku, whatever, same thing, go. I've seen that many, many times. It's a polearm. I don't care, dude. Back to Corbin, man catcher, not spear, but trident and spear. I've seen them use the same. Many times.
Well, you have to think about it this way: a dagger and a knife. The big difference between a dagger and a knife is a knife has a blade on one side and a dagger has blades on both sides. But guess what you can do with both of them? Slash this way.
Slash and poke,
and stab people. You can do both those things. So if you can use a dagger, dude, you can fight with a knife. If you can use a knife, you can fight with a dagger. I mean, your style is going to be different, but it'll still work. It'll work just the same. But like he was saying earlier, a two-handed sword and a knife, very different animal.
Right.
Does not work the same at all. So you should not be able to go, close enough. No, there is no close enough. Those are yards apart. Stop it.
Yeah, and if it comes down to the numbers, if that -2 is a big deal, maybe you should use a weapon you're actually trained in, or learn to specialize, or I just can't believe that 10%. Think about it this way: if that 10% is such a big deal for you, your clerics, thieves, rogues, your priests, rogues, and mages aren't able to hit at all because their THAC0 rolls are already much lower than yours anyway.
Yeah, and that -5 will put them in the dirt.
Yeah, and even if they don't have -5, even if they're using a weapon they're proficient with, the THAC0 rolls are already so much lower. Theoretically, the dungeon master should be thinking that the fighter's probably going to hit every round unless he rolls really badly. Otherwise, the other characters are all but useless. So that -2 between a dagger and a two-handed sword does not make any sense to me. It was nonsense adding it to the book. And if you're quibbling over 2 points or 10%, you just need to grow up. like I again, you can make a potential argument for the tight groups, but I just don't think that they're necessary. It would have been better if they would have given the tight groups to the wizards and thieves and priests, and just say, okay, if within the tight group you only suffer the fighter penalty of -2 instead of your full -5 or 3 or whatever. So, all right. Page 93. We're about to finish this up here. Yeah, we'll just go there. The last chunk of the book is full of gear, weapons, armor, special rules for things like lassos, which are not the same, and I know this from experience. Lassos have 2 different rules, one in the Ninja's Handbook, one in the Fighter's Handbook. So I wouldn't say they're contradictory. You just pick which one you like better. What's better for your character. The one in the Ninja's Handbook is the one that worked for that character because I wasn't allowed to do damage. If you want to do damage, use the one of the Fighter's Handbook. But it gives a lot of additional rules where if you try to look in the player's handbook, how to use a net, what does it do? It's not in the player's handbook. It does explain them here, which is definitely helpful. So most of the book is pretty good. So overall, the Complete Fighter's Handbook is a good book. It adds a lot of solid options, especially role-playing opportunities, for AD&D 2nd edition, but unfortunately, the worst parts are the ones people love the most. To this day, I hear people rave about the Berserker and the weapons groups. Meanwhile, detailed combat rules, the expanded equipment section, the actually helpful role-playing advice get overlooked, even though that's the stuff that really adds value in this 35 pages of rules, folks. So what is your favorite part of the Complete Fighter's Handbook, and what part do you think is overrated? Of course, let me know in the comments right after you like, subscribe, and share this video with all of your tabletop nerd friends.
All right, we have one more comment.
Okay.
From Kevin Sullivan. Said, tight weapon groups are actually realistic, not gamey. Again, he said that tight weapon groups are the only groups that actually have a foot to stand with, a leg to stand on. It does make a certain amount of sense.
So I was trained to some degree with Psi. I was actually fairly decent with them. And you could say many things like, well, yeah, they're like daggers. Not at all. You will not fight with a... Not at all.
Not at all.
Psi are not sharp, so you can hold them backwards. In fact, it's preferable to hold them backwards so you can use the hook to go behind people's knees. You would never do that with a dagger. If you did that with a dagger...
You held it backward, well, you're defeating yourself at that point.
My point being that as a fighter, you only suffer a -2. That's 10%. It's not like you don't know how to use it and you're fumbling around with it and it's falling all over the place. It's just -2. A bastard sword does not fight the same as a longsword. There are weight differences. There are balance differences. Like it's just not the same animal. Are they close? Yes. If we're talking a 10%, a -2, 10%, that's it. I just don't see that -2 penalty as being wrong. If you're trained in longsword, longswords are usually 2-sided. A katana is only 1-sided. A longsword it can absolutely slash, but it's meant for piercing, way more than katana. Katana is fully meant to slash. That's just 10%. That's it. I don't see that penalty as being
unless you're
inappropriate.
in a Tarantino movie, then it's meant to pierce your head through your mouth.
Well, again, can and should are 2 different things. You absolutely can pierce with a katana. You absolutely can slash slashing with a longsword is absolutely a common tactic. I'm just saying that they are used in different manners. The martial arts between them are different. I don't think that 10% is an inappropriate penalty to give.
Okay.
All right. Oops. We should put up this. So, what are your thoughts on this? Are you also going to argue with me in the comments about how you think you're a martial artist and everything is the same? That you've studied, and when I say martial artist, I mean actual medieval martial arts, which is what I forget the 2 organizations. Arma is one of them. I forget what the other one is. And can tell me why 10%, a -2, is so out of scope when you're using a. Let's see. Let's look at 2 items here. Oh, they only give weird ones here. So never mind. A 2-handed sword and a long sword. I just don't see it, and I don't think you're going to convince me of it. Am I being too gamey with it, and does it matter? Like, I want to reiterate one last thing here. Most dungeon masters that I played with, right, wrong, or otherwise, if the weapons were really similar, they didn't utilize the -2 penalty anyway. I saw that more often than not. But you let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, and share. And look forward to the next video. And next, Heathen Dog is going to talk about the Paladin. And then, of course, I will make fun of the Paladin's Handbook as well. I'll see you then.